GDC and at the ID at Xbox showcase here, where there's about 25 titles, and the first one we picked to do an interview on, gotta say it's the one that caught my attention at E3 back when it was first shown, Cuphead. Can you introduce us to Cuphead? What kind of game is it?
Cuphead is sort of a run and gun. It's sort of a Contra-based game. It's got aspects of platforming involved, but it is that retro, more challenging kind of from that era.
So, I mean, obviously the visual design of it is something that really stands out. Can you tell us a little bit how the inspiration for it and sort of how you came up with this concept?
For sure. It's mainly because when we grew up, we just had access to so many 1930s cartoons. So it was sort of like bargain bin shopping. Every time you went to the grocery store, you'd pick up another VHS. So we just amassed like a collection of like Van Buren and old Disney and Fleischer Studios. And we should have been more addicted to He-Man and things from that era, but it just turned out what stuck was the 30s and 40s cartoons.
And it's really wonderfully represented in this game. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of what kind of technical things have gone into sort of recreating the look and feel of it?
To the best of our ability, we're using like the exact same technique that they used to. So this is all with a light table and pencil first. So everything is first sketched out, and then after that it's passed on to an inker who cleans up all the line work. But using this kind of technique, it allows the imperfections to stay, whereas now with digital, most digital animators can clean up any imperfection, and then you don't see sort of the line waver or that exact look that 30s aesthetics get.
Sounds like a time-consuming process compared to other work. Has it been a long journey?
It's been a long journey for sure, and it's time-consuming, and it's also a little bit pricey. Animation never, or animating in that sense, can never really go too fast. So we have expanded our team to now have a total of 4 animators. So we're rushing to catch up on a lot of assets so we can show more.
Cool. What's the sort of structure of the game? I see there's a map that you move around, and there's different stages that you go into, different boss fights. Can you tell us a little bit about the structure?
Yeah, so basically it is sort of exploring islands. You will move from from one area to another fighting bosses, and then occasionally there are level-based, mainly like platforming with small enemies, but the levels themselves do not end on a boss fight. These are sort of ways to gain your extra weapons or gain a new super, so it helps break up the feeling of being strictly just boss fights. Plus, we want to add a few mini games too, for sure.
So I gotta ask, how did you come up with the idea of Cuphead and the character himself?
Well, that mainly just came from my brother just sketching out 1,000. We wanted to make sure that our main character was perfect, like essentially old animation, or not animation, old character design idea that your silhouette has to be strong enough, and then the character itself will be strong. So he went through every possible phase of being like the animal characters, multiple different types of human traits, like job-oriented, like if he was a king or if he was a magician or something, but nothing really felt original. And then when we started getting really obscure, it just sort of dawned upon, and it was like a pretty rough drawing, but just seeing a guy with a cup for a head stuck out. That's it. There's a lot of other weird drawings in that, and at some point, hopefully, we publish the entire sketchbook. But yeah, it just stood out so strong, and then he refined it over the next month or 2. I don't remember.
And I guess it's also lends itself nicely to a lot of the mechanics that you now got in the game.
Oh, absolutely. We kind of like the cartoons and video games mix so seamlessly. There's something about the idea of in video games, like your characters die, but they truly never die in the same way that in cartoons that is a principle. Like in the 30s, there's a lot of like painful aspects, if you want to say, where a character should be crippled, but then they just get back up with a big smile on their face, and I'm like, that reads also very well for video games.
So what's the road ahead, and sort of when you're aiming for release?
Well, the idea, I guess, is it will be done when it's done. Can't be too specific on that. There's always going to be some sort of hiccup. We're looking to hire maybe another animator and potentially looking into hiring like another programmer. So we're aiming for end of year, but that we'll see when the time comes. There's always a hiccup.
Thank you so much for your time.
You bet. You're welcome.